I'm gonna go to the second one in the Loyalist book because it's just easier that way.
Well,
So
I have the Trader book. If you'd rather me just jump to
yes,
Imperial or
love
Emperor's
it.
Children.
Go ahead. Who are we doing?
Okay.
I guess Emperor's Children are first.
Yeah, let's do on. Let's keep the numbers. I'll do Dirty Traders. You do Loyalist Scum.
Hit me.
So let's see. Emperor's Children. Whenever they make a charge, as long as it's not disorderly, they are +1 initiative. And then any vehicle doing a defensive weapons shooting as a reaction gets +1 to hit. So I think the thing that a lot of people miss with the first part of Flawless Execution is the fact that Initiative 1 things become Initiative 2, which is such a huge bump. When everyone else's Power Axes and Thunderhammers are I1 and yours are I2, you're going to rock them.
It's so good.
It's so insanely good because now you have a vet squad, for example, that's all Power Axes, right? Or a command squad that's all Thunderhammers. And if they run into the exact clone, they're murdering them without a doubt. And it's so huge.
This is one of the things I was talking about with bikes earlier on. All the speed, you go bully the things that, like, you typically, you put unwieldy versus unwieldy, and you're going to lose each guys lose models. You get these guys, you said a vet squad, weapon skill 5.
Yeah.
I mean, a command squad with Thunderhammers on a Terminator squad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that Thunderhammer command squads are already terrifying. Now they're going to swing before mine. Like, I'm going to lose my squad before I get to swing. It's like, is it enough to carry a whole legion? No. But this is really strong.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very. So as a whole, I love what they've done with the Emperor's Children.
Same.
Because they, and I'll say this for all the legions in 2.0, they have made the legions feel more legion-y. Like they feel more like they are themselves, and specialize in their thing. So the idea of a power axe wielding Emperor Children going before everybody else, could totally believe it. The fact that they're going to mess with your weapon skill or be better than you in melee, totally believe
with like
that
narratively good reasons too. And I love what you just said, because one of the biggest criticisms I heard about Heresy at the beginning was things felt less individual, less specific to legions. They missed the negatives to the legions. So I get that, but this deep into the game, I'm like, no, I'm loving how different. I agree with you. Things do feel vastly different from one legion to the next. Well, not vastly, but more so than the first edition.
Yeah, exactly. So the +1 ballistic skill thing for defensive shooting, it's kind of cool. It's not going to win you a game.
I think it's more like how fast they're. Like, okay, you're charging, we got them jump on you.
Right.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. The perfect counter. This one I don't know off the top of my head, but I think it's. Oh yeah. So when someone declares a charge on you, you charge them instead.
Love it. I don't even know if that's good.
The most First children-y thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. I love it.
And it all comes down to, they're emphasizing that their reaction times and all of that is just better. And that's perfect.
Well, the thing about this too is if you're going to play a melee type army, you're going to get charged eventually.
Yep.
This gives you like, hey, I got up in your face, my whole army. I charged you, I whipped you out. Now I'm standing there. I still have threats to you.
Yeah. Yeah, and the fact that they can be like, I charge you, and now I get +1 initiative for doing it. Plus any other accoutrements that go off when I charge. Tight. Love it. So.
Well, you can cancel their charge.
Damon, I think you are correct. I think you do still have to do roll off, and there's the whole thing. But even just the opportunity to be like, I know you charge me, but I'm better than you. I love it. So. Any final notes on the reaction?
No.
Okay. So the warlord trait.
You're going to use it. I'll say this: they got one of the advanced reactions that you're going to use in most games, not every game, but most games.
Yeah. I don't know much about the warlord traits, just because I've only gotten a chance to play against like one Emperor's Children player, I think.
Wait a second. I'm gonna pause for a second because I want to take what I just said back.
Okay.
If I'm playing my Iron Warriors where I have no melee,
Sure.
and I'm getting like manhandled by these guys. Eventually, you go, okay, you know what? I'm gonna take my iron words. I'm gonna charge you just to stop you from getting to this squad or whatever. But now I'm like, what's your advanced reaction? Maybe I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
So maybe it's one of the warlord traits that also prevents your opponent from ever charging you. If they're
Right,
really meant
because
for it.
if it wasn't Emperor's Children, I completely agree. Like, oh man, there's been plenty of times in games where I'm like, okay, they're going to charge me, but if I do it, I'll at least deny them the +1 attack.
Exactly.
But
That's exactly
knowing that you can just be like, I'm still going to charge you. Either way, I'm getting charged. So, yeah, I would agree. Do you want to dive into warlord traits? I think
point out anything that stands out as overly interesting, but no, we can be here for 20 hours if we went over every little thing.
It's true. I mean, look, they're all melee great. I love the fact that they have a traitor and a loyalist and a neutral. I think that's cool. It's definitely a head scratcher in this book that like some legions have traitor and some legions have loyalist.
I think that's how they broke it down. The ones that all of the legions that were on the Isfan 5? No, what was the first attack? 5 or 3? 3 was first? So all the traitors that were Isfan 3 have loyalist stuff.
Yeah.
And then the loyalists that have distinct units that turn traitor and work with Horus have traitor stuff in the novels. So this is like, if the novels had something, then you're gonna see something in here, which is really good.
Yeah. We'll get into the Blood Angels having a traitor one later. That one doesn't make sense to me. But
because we're doing this live, I'm going to keep pointing out something. Because Lucian, I'm assuming he wasn't here the whole time. He said, you guys are being too soft on ratings. Too much is meshed in the middle. That's intentional. We believe that the spread of the game isn't this. It's this. So yes, there is a hierarchy of 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, all the way to 18th. But they're not like, it's not this far apart from 1 to 18. It's this far.
Yeah.
Carry on.
And the other thing to keep in mind is Heresy is not a tournament game like 40K.
Correct.
Or even like Age of Sigmar. So
yeah,
if you love Emperor's Children and you love their fluff and you love doing experiments on your people and all of that kind of stuff, I don't care if this Legion sucks. I still want to see you play it because you're going to be passionate about it.
And one thing I like to point out too a lot for doing this for nearly a decade is we have world leaders in C tier. Just because the world leaders player in your gaming group dominates and wins every time, 100% of the time, doesn't mean world leaders are good. It just means he's better than you. So I got to point out to people all the time. We have our own biases from our own games. Just because like I keep losing with my Legion doesn't mean my Legion's bad.
Well, and another thing too, and like this is so prevalent when I come visit at Mini Wargaming, is your meta is so different from my meta. And like if I were to go to California and play games, it's going to be so different there. So like your army may be S tier in your meta.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
But we're just going off generic, if everyone had the same meta, which, is a pipe dream. But yeah, so. Yeah.
Yep. No, most of us get that. And it's very easy to overlook it.
Mm-hmm. So Rights of War, I think they kept both the 2 that everyone loved from the previous edition. And I think they do exactly what they need to do. Maraskar is all about outsmarting and outflanking, which is great.
Yep.
And then, Third Company Elite is a little more down the road where they get a little more twisted. And now that they have surgical augments.
I love that. So I love the augments.
Same. And it's because before it was just like, cool, we made this one unit really good, insanely good. But the augments is very, mid Heresy for them. And I love both of these Right of Wars. I think they're both good as
solid Rights of War. Like, yeah. I think most of them, most of the Rights of War are actually pretty well done, to be fair, through all these books.
Yeah. So Trey mentioned he wants to see the justification for the A tier, and I think we can get into that pretty soon as we get to the special units, because they all have the same rule. So the surgical augmentations, I'll just run through those real quick. So you can give anything that isn't unique a surgical for 20 points. And they have one of three choices. So they've got good old-fashioned Sonic Shriekers, which is when they charge or they are charged or they're locked in combat, you're -1 to hit them. That's so huge.
That's so good. And it gets even better with, we'll get to other units that make it even better, but that's so good.
So in a system where, like, if I'm weapon skill 5 and you're weapon skill 4, you now need a 5 to hit me. And I tell you, I bought Sonic Shriekers, now you need a 6.
I've been there.
In my mind, you're useless. You're not even worth fighting.
I think TB, just want to say thanks again for the Horus Heresy talk. Appreciate you, my dude.
Yeah. So I think that one's great. Obviously, if you're immune to fear, you're not going to hear that. But and then subsonic pulsar, they ignore the leadership and ballistic skill for night fighting. That's cool, but there's a lot of other ways to do it.
Yeah.
But it's still cool that they can do it. And then Sonic Lance, it's a strength 2 flamer with breaching 6 up. It's what Eidolon had before.
I have failed charges because of this.
For sure.
They've Overwatched. I failed the ping Derek. I'm like, come on.
I think it's one of those things that, like, I'm going to read it off the page, and you're just like, meh. And then you see it happen, and you're like, oh shit. So yeah, I think those are all good. I personally think the Sonic Shrieker is better than anything else, but I'm a little biased. So, the Phoenix Spear finally got fixed.
Yeah, I still don't know if I like it, but
I like it because there's no points increase.
Yeah.
If it was 5 or 10 points like a lot of other weapons are, I would totally agree with you.
So it's +2 strength AP3 to start.
Right. Murderous Strike, Reach, Breaching. So Murder Strike obviously is huge.
Yeah.
Breaching is huge. But
Murder Strike is even more value in 2.0.
Yeah, exactly. But I think the Reach is where the creme de la creme is. Because let's say you just take a sergeant of a tactical squad and you give him a power spear. Now he's initiative 5 when he's fighting another tactical sergeant, which could be huge because, if you get lucky and you get that 6, it doesn't matter if you have an apothecary, it doesn't matter if you have artificer armor, and I hit you at initiative 5. Sorry about your luck. The rapier's cool. It's just it's a power sword with murderous strike instead of just reaching.
Yeah.
So, but it's free
because the point cost make it okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, moving on to their Centurion, the Phoenix Warden is really cool. It's super fluffy. Because I like to think of it as one of their Terminators that is a cut above all the rest. So it's a cool idea, especially for narrative and role playing aspects.
My problem with him is the exact same problem I have with the Dark Angel we already talked about. It's
Okay.
cool, but a chaplain's better. It's frustrating. I guess it's a criticism that chaplains are too good.
Yeah, so I would agree with you with one small exception. So the Phoenix Warden automatically gets an Iron Halo, and that's huge. Plus, their built-in abilities are pretty solid. So the whole backbone of the Legion, I think, is their skill unmatched. I think that's what really puts them into S tier for me, because they can do so many things that everyone else can. So for sacrificing one attack, they can either become +1 ballistic skill or make you hit them on 1 less. So if you're already having trouble hitting them because they're weapon skill 5 and your weapon skill 4, the ability for them to just be like, no, now you hit me on a 6. Or I'm going to hit you on a 2.
Well, that's the Phoenix Terminator squad have that rule. And that's what I think, that's a good point. Because that makes that, damn, I can see you're right. That one actually is one of the few that's better than a chaplain. Because the Phoenix Terminators, if they want to not die, they're not going to die. And this guy can go give it to somebody. No, you're right. I agree with you. This can make an elite squad survive. Like veteran melee squad, you put him in there, probably better than a chaplain.
Right, or you give them to, like a despoiler squad, for example, right?
Yeah.
Someone just has an ungodly amount of attacks, and you say, okay, your weapon skill, drops by 1, but now you all get +1 attack. Or now you all hit on 3s, or now you only get hit on 4s when you're fighting something else that's weapons.
Or using their reaction, like you're trying to charge me. Well, okay, I'm going to charge you. You don't get your +1 attack. I'll figure you -1 attack. I'm like, I'm winning that fight.
Exactly.
I'm with you.
I think the versatility of that is really what puts
I think you're right. I think you convinced me for 8 here, probably, on that. We haven't even got to their stuff.
Yeah. So, the big man himself, Snake Boy, or future Snake Boy. Sorry, spoilers.
Why is he one of the bulkiest guys in the Primarchs?
I don't know. I don't think he should be.
He's got to be a misprint, right?
He doesn't have snake body yet, so I don't know why he's so bulky.
He has average stats, except for his weapon skill 8 and initiative 8.
Right. And we'll get into why the initiative is so good, but people probably already know where that's coming from.
His personality, his ego, all the reasons.
Initiative equal ego. Yeah.
Oh, that does make sense.
Yeah. You're not wrong. So me personally, I think one of the biggest things that all Primarchs do is their sire ability. Like, if I just had to rank Primarchs just solely, I would rank them mostly off of their sire ability, because that's what you're doing for my entire legion. The other 2,500 points that showed up other than this guy. So I think that's a really huge thing. So when you have a really good one, it makes a huge difference. So his, for example, everyone can use as a leadership. So essentially, if you can see him, you're leadership 10. Huge. And you get +1 to calculate who won combat. For a melee-based game, or a melee-based army, it's going to be great. And especially tied in with stuff like living icons, where they're also adding it to it. Because it specifically states that they stack with Fulgrim's ability. So if I tie, but I have both of these abilities, I win by 2. And now you have to deal with my ridiculous initiative.
Well, I'm gonna make a dumb argument, but
Sure.
it doesn't make sense. So he's not the greatest for fighting another Primarch. But if he's fighting anything else in the game, like, he's gonna win by a lot. Now,
Sure.
The reason why it's a dumb argument is, like, every Primarch kind of does that. He just does it better.
Yeah. Well, and I personally think that, like, there's very few Primarchs that have a 3-up invuln in any situation.
I think
and the fact
3?
that one of them
Yeah.
is super good.
Oh, 4.
Now, the Sublime Swordsman has always been my favorite rule of his, and it's just screams, I'm so much better than you, which is, I'm faster than you, and for every point I'm faster than you, I get an attack.
I mean, that's why he's like, he just kills. Like, he's constantly being challenged. Like, oh, Sergeant has a challenge, so I don't lose 10 guys. I'm going to lose the combat by 12.
Right.
But he didn't kill 12 guys. Oh, wait, does he get capped out at 10 attacks?
I don't think
Is that a rule in this game?
No, not anymore.
Okay.
Because you go to 12 strength.
Oh, that's true. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Fulgrim and Corax is another example that if they're fighting another Primarch, they're good. But if they've been unleashed on something in power armor,
they're great.
It's not going to exist. Yeah. It's going to be a pink mist.
Yeah.
So, and then...
Well, Fulgrim, like, here's how I kind of rate fighting abilities of units, or these Primarchs.
Yeah.
Fulgrim, I could risk putting into a unit of 5 Terminators with Thunderhammers, because I mean, if they survive, they're going to do work back to Fulgrim because they're brutal. But with his wave attacks, he's a reasonable chance of them filling their 4 invuln. Like, he does kill more of them than the average Primarch.
Right. So let's say he's fighting a command squad, right? Let's just use that as an example.
Yep.
So command squad is weapon skill 5, which unfortunately is surprisingly bad for them. So he is going to be hitting them on 3s. He's going to be wounding them on 3s.
2s. He's not the layer blade, no?
Oh, sorry. Wounding on 2s.
He's a flesh bait.
Yeah, so he's hitting on 2s. He's killing on 2s. And he's going to get, because of the duelist, well, that's only if he's in a challenge, but he's going to be, what, 10 attacks?
Yeah.
11 if you were dumb enough to let him charge you?
Yeah.
That's what it's going to be if Pink missed. You may have a 4-up invuln, but you're going to fail eventually.
Well, I'd be nervous about it because like you can spike 4s and like hold up a primarch for a turn or two, but these guys have the best chance of burning through. No, I like him. I like him. He's I don't like the model, unfortunately. He needs an update, but
when I had one, I put a helmet on him.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Great. But yeah, and then Firebrand, still a joke. Never going to take it. I see why he was seduced by the Blade of Lear. Yep. So Phoenix Terminators, the unit that I wanted to be good, all of first edition, because they're some of the most beautiful models that Forge Worlds made for Horus Heresy, in my opinion.
I think, yeah, one of maybe the most beautiful of all the Terminators. Like they are, I love these models, but
absolutely,
they were in the first book, the first Horus Heresy book. They never had good rules.
Yeah.
Now they're scary. Now I like everything about them. They are not murder bots, but they can kill. More importantly, they can stop you from killing them.
Right, and that's the thing that annoyed me about first edition, where they were supposed to be Fulgrim's bodyguards, but they didn't protect shit. They got to hit somebody else on a 3, but they only had a 5-up invuln. But now they have a skill unmatched, and their weapon skill 5, and with the changes for that. So they can also do that. You only hit me on a 6, which if you're trying to protect somebody, done. You completed your job. Your check's in the mail. But yeah, I love them. I think the 200 points is great. Yeah, no notes.
Yeah, solid unit.
Yep. The Palatine Blade. They're really good unless you're playing against an opponent who drop pods a whole bunch of plasma guns. Yes, I'm still bitter about that, Steve.
Yeah, no, I get you. Also, they can't have they can't take jump packs anymore. I know you can with the PDF, but we've disallowed that, so they can't take. And everybody I ever played against Emperor's Children have had 10 Palatine Blade with jump packs and what's his face, Eidolon.
Yep.
Everybody.
Yeah, and that's because they're super good, and those two units go really well together. So,
can you take 10 Phoenix Guards a retinue?
What's that? These can't be a retinue, but the Phoenix.
No, but the Phoenix Guard can. Oh, but they're not Chosen Warrior.
Correct, they are not.
So no 10 Chosen Warrior.
Oh, they're not Chosen Warrior, but they're all characters. I just realized that.
What?
Yep.
What, these are characters as well?
All right, so they got way better.
So look, that's definitely intended that the Knights and the Phoenix 100% intended, guys.
All right, now I can't take that from you, Snippy.
Okay, hold on. Is the fact that they're characters enough to maybe bump them to S or not? We're not bumping them up for one thing.
Well, we'll finish, right? Because those Terminators are fantastic. But like, yeah. So I mean, the skill unmatch is so good in this, and the fact that the Palatine Blades obviously have it on top of already being weapon skill 5, absolute beauty. And the fact that they can all take spears for 5 points if you wanted to model them like that.
I think I would.
What?
I would take the spears. I would pay the 5 points to that.
Yeah. Well, previously what I did is I took a 10-man and only like 4 or 5 of them had spears because it was expensive. But at 5 points apiece, I'd give them all a spear.
Yeah.
Because now they're initiative 5. And that's so much better. But yeah, I think they're a solid unit. The fact that they're all Artificer armor, you don't have to pay for it anymore, is huge. Would love it if there's a way to give them an invul.
I'm gonna make them too good.
Right. Like, put a character with them or something that gives them like a 5 or a 6. But yeah.
We'll talk about the not to go back, but the companions, the Deathwing companions, that whole combo gives everybody an invuln. And they have
Right.
2 up armor, and they're like good up skill 5. I was like, yeah, that's why it's not intended, but not to pull back.
Yeah. But no, they're worth comparing for sure. Also, yeah. I love the fact that they still have counterattack.
I know. I was going to point that out.
So good for them. But yeah, let's move on to everyone's favorite Emperor's Children, the Cacophony.
I know how to say Cacophony, but only ever read it as Cacophony.
I hate you.
I know. It drives me nuts.
Adult literacy classes are drastically underfunded.
But
just saying.
But also, like, these things, not these ones, but the Cacophony existed like when I was 12, and I read it the first time, not heard it the first time. So it's Cacophony.
Yeah, that's fair.
Fearless. Everything else, fearless. Just give them fearless.
Right. They're fearless, which is amazing. Now, their weapon changed a lot. It's not as scary, in my opinion, but it's a lot more reliable.
Hold on a second. It is basically an old Volkite with pinning.
Yep. And
Shell Shock 1 pinning.
But it also gets hot.
Yeah, I can't stand that. Not because it gets hot is bad. It's because I have to roll 1 at a time.
Yeah, that's super annoying.
If my point ever wanted to bring in a 10-man squad of these guys and wanted to roll all of them together and then just put the gets hot wounds on the model, I don't even do that. I don't even care because it's very frustrating to have to roll these guys 1 at a time because it gets hot. Like,
yeah. In my opinion, if you're going to bring 10 of these, bring a D10 so we can figure out who's going to take the get hot wound out.
Agreed. That's the one downside. I actually think these guys are 150 points for 5. I think they're an auto include because, in my opinion, when you play Horus Heresy 2nd Edition, you want melee, you want things to sit back and shoot, you want mobility, you need everything, and these do the sit back and shoot and try to pin drop, I think, pretty well.
Right. And once you get into the 3rd Legion, the fact that they become troops, now you have fearless troops. They're not scoring, but
I like them. I like them.
I love them. And then they have a whole bunch of upgrades, hilariously, that no one's ever going to take.
Let's be clear. They can only be traitors.
Yeah, that is true. So Big Boy Eidolon, Thunderhammer Master Supreme. First off, I love the fact that they finally named his weapons.
Yeah.
I love that they put that effort in, and they're not just like, it's a Thunderhammer. So that's pretty rad.
Is this Thunderhammer still... No, it's unwieldy now.
It's always been unwieldy. So it's the Thunderous Charge. So when he charges, it loses unwieldy.
Oh, gotcha. Is that how it worked in 1st edition? I thought he was always only when he charged? Okay.
Yep. But now Thunderhammers are so much better because now it's mastercrafted before it wasn't, and it's brutal too. And we already talked about how good brutal is. Yep. Death Scream is exactly the same as it used to be, which is cool. And then I believe his Warlord trait is pretty amazing, if I'm not mistaken. At the beginning of the battle, once all players have been deployed,
+1 to hit.
+1 to hit. Oh yeah, 1 enemy HQ or Primarch. So for a guy that's weapon skill 6, it means he's hitting another Praetor on a 3.
Yeah. They can get +1 to wound. Not that you're gonna need it with the strength 8, but
right. I would have loved it if he had skill unmatched, because he's also a great dueler. Sure. But he also is already 215 points. But I think he's great. He's still one of my favorites, character-wise. So
that's in context of 1st edition, that's not a lot of points, but in context of 2nd edition, that's on the upper end for a character. That's on the high end for a character.
You don't want to do a deep dive into all the named characters, right?
No, only there's something worth. Like, this guy changes how the army plays or whatever as a whole. Yeah, because Tall Sarvis, badass model, but
right. So Saul Tarvitz, in a nutshell, he's a mini Praetor.
I mean, Lucius is here too, but here's my case for bringing them down 2 notches.
Okay, I'm ready.
I'm gonna make a case for D tier.
Whoa.
They had the opportunity
Okay.
to put in the greatest character in all of the Heresy in this book, and they did not do that.
And who's that, Steve?
Well, Frenchie, have you heard the story of Or the Dreadnought?
Yeah, I have.
Why was he not? That was the biggest disappointment.
Isn't he in the PDF? Can't you just
is he really?
deal with him over?
He's not allowed.
No. Oh, okay. Yeah, they fixed that. You just don't want to acknowledge it because he didn't get a model.
Fair enough.
He doesn't deserve book.
All right, so with everything we discussed, we have these guys in A tier. I think they sit there solidly.
Yep.
You can make a case for S tier, but I don't think they're gonna make it there. I think they're A tier. I think I got it right.
S tier is good, but they don't really bring anything to shooting. The Cacophony are great.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna make. I gotta make an argument for S tier.
Okay.
8 Initiative 2 Thunderhammers. Is that enough to push them into S tier?
Not just Thunderhammers. Anything unwieldy.
Power axes, power fists, for sure.
Power fists and power axes.
Like, even though you're right, somebody said low end of S tier.
Yeah, I 110% agree.
We're gonna put them in S tier.
Last in the S.
Okay, you know what? I like it. I want to move them over to S tier. We moved
just the
one
ability to make anybody else look like a chump in melee and go, you only hit me on a 6.
Steve's asking why we ignore in the PDS. I'll have to remind, because we've been doing this for a while. I'll remind every now and then. A bunch of the units in the PDF are broken, overpowered, and weren't playtested, or the point costs are just terribly wrong. So instead of like, you can use this one, you can't use this one, everybody kind of whitewashes them all out, because they were never really playtested to the extent the rest of the thing is. You have them all because you converted it up from first edition. Here, rules for second edition, but the game as a whole is these books. Okay, I love what we did. So we go on to the next one. Is there White Scars? Wait, Iron Warriors are next.